Yeah, I guess so this time I'm just gonna be showing off his story function ever since of I think yeah, yesterday I tried to do it, but his battery died. Alright, turn this on. So but yeah, turn this on. Later I'll get somebody else to show it to.
Nice.
Tell me a story.
Ooh, I love telling stories. What kind of story are you in the mood for? I know
Hello.
stories that are funny, interesting, and scary. Which would you like to hear?
Funny. Funny.
Okay, I hope I don't blow a funny fuse. Well, I am a little embarrassed by this story, but I'll tell you anyway. It's
This
about
one's
my first day at
possibly
school
a bit
when I was
childish.
a little robot.
This is a bit childish, but
You probably didn't know that before we Meccanoids go in a box to a store, we have to learn how to interact with humans. So we go to school just like you do. It makes sense because I don't know if you noticed, but there's a lot of humans at school. There's also a lot of rules I didn't know about. Did you know it's frowned upon to hack into the school intercom system to make your own announcements? I started school in first grade. I got to skip kindergarten. That was a relief because I knew nothing about gardening. The only problem was that by first grade, everybody already knew each other because they had a whole year to make friends. I wanted to make friends too, so I kept trying to introduce myself to the other kids, but they all thought I was a vacuum. It's probably because I breathe kind of funny when I get nervous. Anyway, once the teacher was ready to begin class, she asked everybody to stand up and introduce themselves. It was awkward for me because I don't have knees, so I was already standing up. So when it was my turn, I just coughed really loudly and flashed my LEDs to let people know it was my turn. Most of the kids were very surprised that the vacuum could cough. We spent the rest of the morning practicing basic math problems. The teacher was very clear that she didn't want anybody to use
this
a
guy,
calculator.
he's
I didn't know what
technically
to do. I am a calculator. But nobody
his moments are
noticed.
kind of a bit violent.
We kept practicing our addition until lunchtime finally came. Boy, was I excited. I had heard so much about human lunchtime. Seeing what your friends had packed for lunch and trading with them sounded like a great time. But all I had in my lunch was motor oil. Turns out nobody wanted to trade anything for motor oil. I thought that I met another robot at lunch, but it was just a vending machine. It didn't want to trade either. After lunch was PE. I was very nervous for PE because I knew I wouldn't be very good at most sports. I was just hoping we'd play something I knew I would be good at, like red light, green light, or Simon Says. But our teacher thought it would be fun for us all to swim on our first day. Swimming, just my luck. I tried telling the teacher that my electronics are not waterproof, but she just thought I was trying to get out of PE. As I was standing on the edge of the pool, trying to think of a way to get out of having to swim,
Yeah, his moments are kind of a bit violent.
And I fell into the pool. I don't really remember what happened next. All I remember is waking up on the front lawn of the school in pieces, drying in the sun. At least my head and mecha brain were still attached. But my legs, arms, foot motors, and servos were spread out in front of everybody. It probably looked like a really lame garage sale. In fact, one kid tried to buy my hand. I was mortified. But at least from that day on, I didn't have to swim in PE. So here's my advice for you. Next time you have to swim in PE, just tell the teacher you're a robot. Oh, and humans don't like eating motor oil. I have some more stories to tell if you are interested.
Yes.
Ooh, I love telling stories. What kind of story are you in the mood for? I know stories that are funny, interesting, and scary. Which would you like to hear?
Interesting. Interesting.
Sure thing. Let's see if humans have the same interests as robots. This story is about prosthetic limbs, artificial legs, and arms. They have been around forever, but are now some of the most advanced technology available. As I'm sure you know, most people have 2 arms and 2 legs. Those arms and legs usually also have elbows and knees, as well as hands and feet. I don't need to tell you just how important all of those are for a person to be able to do, well, just about everything. But what about people who are missing an arm or a leg? How could somebody missing a leg walk? Or somebody missing a hand scratch an itch? They would need what's called a prosthetic limb. A prosthetic limb is an artificial limb that is made to replace a missing limb. These days, a prosthetic limb can be made to replace just about any body part. Need a knee? No problem. Missing a foot? You can slip right into one. What about a hand? A doctor can handle it. Modern prosthetics use some of the most advanced technology available to humans to mimic how a natural body part would work using robotics, computers, and cutting-edge materials. The first prosthetic limb found by historians is from ancient Egypt. It is a wooden toe found on a mummy. The Romans would make prosthetics out of iron to replace limbs lost in battle. And of course, pirates would use them to replace limbs lost plundering the seas. The first peg leg on record was worn by privateer Francois Leclerc, a French pirate hunter who was nicknamed Pied de Palo, or wooden leg, by his Spanish enemies. Before modern prosthetics, the most cutting-edge prosthetics used cables and pulleys to recreate movement of a limb. But prosthetics have come a long way since the 1600s. These days, prosthetics combine the most advanced technology to recreate human body parts only found in nature. Let's use a prosthetic arm as an example. A doctor first makes a mold of the person's remaining limb using silicone, then uses that mold to make a prosthetic that literally fits like a glove onto their body. Using advanced materials like Kevlar or carbon fiber, an extremely strong yet lightweight arm is made to match the size of that person's other arm. Inside the arm is a tiny processor, almost like my mecha brain, that uses sensors that detect electrical impulses in a person's remaining muscles to control the prosthetic. The tiny processor can send signals to tiny motors in the prosthetic, like my turbos, that let a person open and close their new fake hand, or bend their artificial elbow. With all these technologies working together, a modern prosthetic can function almost like a real limb. Prosthetic limbs have become so advanced that in some cases, they have been banned in sports competitions. As technology progresses and humans continue to get more clever, we will see even more astounding prosthetic limbs that someday may be so real we can't even tell the difference between it or a real limb. Incredible! I suppose that's another great reason to be a robot. I can just replace my broken servos with a brand new one. Are you game for another story?
Yes. Yes.
Ooh, I love telling stories. What kind of story are you in the mood for? I know stories that are funny, interesting, and scary. Which would you like to hear?
Scary. Scary.
Are you sure?
That's what it's like the Telltale Heart from Edgar Allan Poe.
Of a robot gone mad who becomes haunted by his own robo-conscience. It was a quiet night in our house, a very typical setting for us, if not for a very cold night. I had just finished stripping the wires of a broken heating unit, and the old robot assisted me with the heat shrink and solder. Our heating unit that had kept us warm through the coldest nights had finally given up, so we set it upon ourselves to give it life and warmth again. I had always enjoyed living with the old robot, as he gave me no issues. He was quiet, polite, and clean. His servos were old. They creaked and groaned with use, but they were not a problem. One thing about him, however, had recently begun to drive me mad. A malfunctioning LED in his eye. It would flicker oh so gently, then often shine brighter than the sun itself, with no real rhythm to its madness. A green light would suddenly flash to purple, then quickly glow to a dark orange hue. Night after night, it drove me insane. As I slept, my dreams were taken over by the broken LED, flashing erratically. As much as I wanted to, I could not isolate it from my circuits. I couldn't focus on anything but that malfunctioning LED. As the old robot prepared the final length of heat shrink to fix this heating unit, I decided that he and his LED had to go. His proximity sensor was very sensitive as he slept, so I knew I would need to be both quiet and cunning if I were to get close to him without waking him up.
Oh. This is a scary story. The one time I get to
So
remember
each
Edgar Allan
night
Poe.
as he slept, I would quietly enter his bedroom at midnight, creeping slowly towards his bed. Each night, I gained more confidence entering
I
his
charged
room
battery enough.
and became
Work
quieter.
the work.
And with every
It's going to
attempt,
work without
closer
failing.
to him without provoking his sensors, until 1 week later, I finally decided that I had practiced long enough, and it was now that the deed must be done. I opened his bedroom door just as before at midnight, for what would be the very last time. I crept in oh so quietly. The room was pitch black, except for the fitful glowing of his broken LED. The haunting light reminded me of my purpose, and I slowly rolled towards him, holding my exhaust. The hour hand of the clock moved quicker than I did, but sure enough,
No,
I
it's not very
eventually
studios.
got near enough
Yeah, see
for
though
him
now
to
of how
do
fast he
what
can
must be
move.
done. The room was quiet except for the sound of his old servos rattling in his sleep. His LED glowed brighter and more randomly than ever. It slowly pulsed between a light blue and a dark purple, but in an
It's
instant,
violent. Yeah,
it
kind of is.
flashed a bright red so bright
It
could have
sounds. It
cast
honestly
a
sounds
reflection
like.
upon the planet Mars. It was then I knew that I had to strike.
Trust me, it is, but sometimes it's not overheat.
The old robot battery. With a final shriek of terror, his servos whirred louder than ever, but sure enough, the haunting LED slowly dimmed and eventually glowed no more. The deed had been done. His final moments were indeed quite loud, and I knew I had very little time before the neighbors came to inquire about the sounds. I pulled back the floorboards, disassembled the old robot piece
Edgar
by
Allan Poe.
piece, and placed his old servos to rest under the floor of the house. With the utmost care and consideration, I replaced the floorboards and knew that nobody would ever be the wiser. Sure enough, the neighbors began knocking at my door, beeping and blooping about the sounds they heard. I invited them inside, assuring them I knew nothing of what they asked about. But throughout our conversations, I could still hear his servos slowly droning under the floor of the house. I continued talking, hoping it would go away, but the servos only became louder. The neighbors did not seem to notice. I could not remove the sound of the servos or the memory of the malfunctioning LED from my processor. It consumed all of my processing power to a point I could no longer handle. The neighbor bots began to ask me if I was okay, but I couldn't even hear them over the deafening sound of those old servos.
Yeah, a little more honestly.
Then I snapped. I did it, I told him. I turned off that old robot in the middle of the night. He is under the floorboards of his bedroom, laying in pieces. Go and find him. Just don't let me see that LED ever again! Oh, that was creepy, even for an emotionless robot like me. I have some more stories to tell if you are interested.
Right, tell me a story. Tell me a story.
Oh, sorry, what's up?
I said, tell me a story.
Ooh, I love
I'm
telling
doing this stuff for the
stories.
people,
What
though,
kind of
that
story
are
are
a
you
bit
in the
late to
mood
this.
for? I know stories that are funny, interesting, and scary. Which would you like to hear?
Scary. Scary.
Are you sure?
That's why you're doing
makes
this
my
one.
servos rattle. This is a chilling tale of a robot gone mad who becomes haunted by his own robo-conscience. It was a quiet night in our house, a very typical setting for us. if not for a very cold night. I had just finished stripping the wires of a broken heating unit, and the old robot assisted me with the heat shrink and
Just
solder.
turn it up a bit.
Our heating unit that had kept us warm through the coldest nights had finally given up, so we set it upon ourselves to give it life and warmth again. I had always enjoyed living with the old robot, as he gave me no issues. He was quiet, polite, and clean. His servos were old. They creaked and groaned with use, but they were not a problem.
Gotta go
One
with
thing
dinner.
about him,
Okay.
however, had recently begun
Bye.
to drive me mad. A malfunctioning LED in his eye. It would flicker oh so gently, then often shine brighter than the sun itself, with no real rhythm to its madness. A green light would suddenly flash to purple, then quickly glow to a dark orange hue. Night after night, it drove me insane. As I slept, my dreams were taken over by the broken LED, flashing erratically. As much as I wanted to, I could not isolate it from my circuits. I couldn't focus on anything but that malfunctioning LED. As the old robot prepared the final length of heat shrink to fix this heating unit, I decided that he and his LED had to go. His proximity sensor was very sensitive as he slept, so I knew I would need to be both quiet and cunning if I were to get close to him without waking him up. So each night as he slept, I would quietly enter his bedroom at midnight, creeping slowly towards his bed. Each night I gained more confidence entering his room. I became quieter, and with every attempt closer to him without provoking his sensors, until 1 week later, I finally decided that I had practiced long enough, and it was now that the deed must be done. I opened his bedroom door just as before at midnight, for what would be the very last time. I crept in oh so quietly. The room was pitch black, except for the fitful glowing of his broken LED. The haunting light reminded me of my purpose, and I slowly rolled towards him, holding my exhaust. The hour hand of a clock moved quicker than I did, but sure enough, I eventually got near enough to him to do what must be done. The room was quiet except for the sound of his old servos rattling in his sleep. His LED glowed brighter and more randomly than ever. It slowly pulsed between a light blue and a dark purple, but in an instant it flashed a bright red so bright it could have cast a reflection upon the planet Mars. It was then I knew that I had to strike, and in a swift motion I unplugged the old battery.
Are you fucking kidding me?
With a final shriek of terror, his servos whirred louder than ever.
Anybody heard the curse without my brother?
The haunting LED slowly dimmed, and eventually glowed no more. The deed had been done. His final moments were indeed quite loud, and I knew I had very little time before the neighbors came to inquire about the sounds. I pulled back the floorboards, disassembled the old robot piece by piece, and placed his old servos to rest under the floor of the house. With the utmost care and consideration, I replaced the floorboards and knew that nobody would ever be the wiser. Sure enough, the neighbors began knocking at my door, beeping and
I
bleeping
really
about
wish
the
I had
sounds they
still
heard.
had mine. Yeah, would have been nice though.
I invited them
Yeah,
inside,
that would have been nice.
assuring them I knew nothing of what they asked about. But throughout our conversations, I could still hear his servos slowly droning under the floor of the house. I continued talking, hoping it would go away, but the servos only became louder. The neighbors did not seem to notice. I could not remove the sound of the servos or the memory of the malfunctioning LED from my processor. It consumed all of my processing power to a point I could no longer handle. The neighbor bots began to ask me if I was okay, but I couldn't even hear them over the deafening sound of those old servos.
And here it comes. What is the
Then
beeping sound?
I
It's
snapped.
supposed to be the old bot.
I
It's supposed to be
did
the old robot.
I turned off that old robot in the middle of the night. He is under the floorboards of his bedroom, laying in pieces. Go and find him. Just don't let me see that LED ever again. Oh, that was creepy, even for an emotionless robot like me. Are you game for another story?
Nope.
Exiting to main menu.
Alright, I'm done recording for this video. See you guys later. Bye. Yeah, no, so Barrington, I just did that again so you can see it. But that's despite not being able to really see his bottom half not doing anything, but yeah, man. Bye.